Hello and thanks for joining me. My name is Jennifer Bowman and I'm with Olympia Piano Studio. In this video, I would like to share with you my favorite piano technique book, which is called Boris Berlin's Essential Daily Exercises for Piano. I use this book every day in my own personal piano practice, and I also assign it to my students. The way the video is going to be organized is that part one is a tutorial for set one. There are 20 sets in the book and each set has 13 exercises. So I'm going to explain and demonstrate the 13 exercises of set one. Sometimes it will be a side view, sometimes it will be a top view, sometimes maybe even both. So then you can study each exercise and make sure you are executing it correctly. Then at the end of the tutorial section, there will be a play-along section, which will take maybe 10 to 15 minutes. So once you're familiar with the exercises, and if you want to do it along with the video, you can just start from number 1. It will go straight through to number 13. You can purchase this book at Sheet Music Plus, Amazon, Alfred, or other places where you get sheet music. And I really appreciate you tuning in today to watch this video, and I hope these exercises help your piano playing as much as they have helped mine. Thank you. This is page 4 in your book. This is set number 1, exercise number 1 for the independence of fingers, finger strength. I use this exercise to help strengthen the shape of my hand. We want to have a nice bridge. This part is the bridge, and we want to have firm first knuckles. We don't want to let those cave in and buckle or cave. So when I set up for this exercise, I usually put my hands kind of flat on the keys, and then I roll up till I feel the point at which I have a nice bridge, somewhat of a curve, and my fingers feel firm. And this is how this exercise goes. You hold down the notes you aren't playing, and then you lift up fingers one at a time, and you're going to hold 5 down. 4 doesn't want to go up very high. So you're both trying to keep the bridge shape and trying not to let that first knuckle cave. I try this one usually in a bunch of different positions every day when I practice this. So I might go up chromatically, stand up, and so forth. This is set number 1, exercise 2, for relaxation, non-legato or portamento. There's many ways of describing this touch. I like to describe it as kind of rolling through the key with the full fingerprint. You can't see it very well in the book, but this is finger 3. And all you're doing is you're feeling the distance of an octave, rolling up, moving on the rest. So you roll up, move, roll up, release, float off the key. When you float off, you're moving to the next note. So it's a nice fluid motion, but you feel kind of the pad of your fingers on this one. Try it on the black keys also. Notice I'm floating off, rolling through, float off. Super fluid. This is set number 1, exercise 3, top view. When our hands get set for this one, instead of being straight like this, we're going to angle them slightly to the right. So you'll see a little bit of a U shape between your thumb and your second finger. And then we're going to try to keep this loose as the second finger moves up chromatically, like this. Only go as far as your hand can stretch. Some of you might only be able to get to here, and that's fine. This is set number 1, exercise 4, for passing of the thumb in scales. This is probably one of the most important exercises to master in the book. So when we play scales, we want to have a compact hand position so our scales can feel very even and like we're gliding up and down the keyboard. But often when we do our scales and we have our thumb come under, our wrist goes crazy and we have a lot of bumps in the scale. So we want to eliminate the bumps. And this exercise greatly helps with that. So the way this works, we're going to find our position, stand up, find our nice bridge, our firm hand position. It's not going to be sometimes as curved as we think. Sometimes it feels a little flatter than one might think. So in this exercise, we're going to anchor down finger 3 with a nice curved shape. Got my nice bridge up here. And 3 is going to hold firm there like that. Thumb, the other fingers are going to hang out in their positions. They're just going to relax. Sometimes your pinky's going to want to go in the air. Just get used to having it relax. And the thumb is going to fold under. I like to imagine this is a little tunnel. The thumb folds under, goes from C to F. We're trying to make the joint of our thumb feel loose and flexible. And letting all the other fingers hang out and not letting the wrist kind of go crazy like that and turn. I like to try to just get it as straight as possible. And can the thumb reach over there, fold over there with as little angle as possible. Then, part 2 of this exercise, we're actually going to play finger 3. 1, 3, under 3. This is set number 1, exercise 4, top view. I want you to see my hand is in a nice semicircle shape. Finger 3 is firm, and we're going to strive not to have a lot of back and forth motion like this. Thumb is going to come under this little tunnel that's created by finger 3 in the wrist, and it's going to reach over for F. We're trying to get this joint right here to feel very flexible with not a lot of this kind of thing that wastes too much energy. We want to have our scales be nice and compact, so the thumb getting as flexible as possible with that cross under helps make our scales a lot better. This is set number 1, number 5. This is For Octaves. So we get our hands in a good position and we're going to practice moving quickly, just using your thumb up and down the scale. This will come in handy later on when you want to play a passage with octaves. If the thumb is solid, then your octaves have a chance of being more solid. I'm just touching it with the tip of my thumb. Rest of the hand is relaxed. I might try on black keys. Up the chromatically, so you feel going in and out to the black keys. This is set number 1, exercise 6 for the trills. Very, very important exercise in this book. Trills are very common in the piano repertoire, and this is just a very valuable exercise. Well done, I think. So it's hard to see the numbers, but the numbers are 2 and 3. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying to put more notes into one physical gesture. So instead of playing like this, which would be 4 gestures, down, 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 we're going to try to get 4 notes into 1 or 2 gestures. So start this by getting our good position. We're going to be a little more on the tips, not so flat on this one, more on the tips. In the keys, our hands are not going to be leaving the keys, and the motion is going to go like this. It's going to go down, up, then kind of down, up. So big down, up, little down, up. Big down, up, little down, up. Now do you notice on the little down, the big down, my whole hand is going down. Big, up, then little, I'm just touching the note again. My wrist keeps going up. Big down, up, press, up. So in essence, once I've mastered the first chunk of this exercise, I'm getting 4 notes into one big gesture with my wrist. The second one with the triplets is a little bit more tricky. You have 2 downs in this one. You're going to have down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. When you first do it, you're probably going to want to go down, up, down. So we have to pace the up with the wrist to not go too high on the first up, if that makes sense. So we're going to go down, start moving up, keep moving up, versus down, up, all the way. Down, up, still up, down, up, down. So we'll have 3 notes in a gesture for that one. Then the third part of this one is the first part has 4 notes in a gesture, so it's 2 downs. So it's going to be down, up, down. And they're just getting you used to also a trill with the black keys in this. You could try it on the white too if you wish, but it's kind of nice to also feel what that angle is for the black key. So part 3 of this is 4 notes in one gesture. So you're going to have down, up, down. And just like in the second part, you're going to want to make sure your wrist doesn't go all the way up on the second note. You have 3 notes to go up with. Down, up, down. And I try this also with the white keys. So down, up, down. You notice, always really firm with the knuckle on finger 3 and finger 2. This is set number 1, exercise 7, for repeated notes. I tell my students this is the basketball one. This exercise is for a quick snap back with the staccati. So we get our hands set in a nice position, stand up as we did before. And this is mostly going to be just right from the wrist. You aren't going to use your whole arm in this one. You're just going to kind of snap from the wrist like so. Very tip of the finger, keeping your hands in a great shape. You might move in, try it on the black keys, feels a little different. Your hand has to be a little higher, but notice my wrist is just snapping. This is set number 1, exercise 8, for double thirds. The first few times you do this exercise, it might feel a lot harder than it looks. It looks pretty easy, but you really got to focus your mind on holding down fingers 4 and 2 while 3 and 1 are lifting as a unit. So use your brain power. I call this one actually brain power with my students. We get set, stand up, we have our good bridge, we have our firm first knuckle, wrist not too low, and now we're going to focus 4 and 2, holding down. Pinky's going to want to flail in the air, I guarantee it. 4 and 2 are going to be a little shaky sometimes. So once we got them all set, then we press 1 and 3 down as a unit. Try to get them so they're sounding at the same time. You don't want to have that kind of thing. So 3 and 1 is a unit, and a softer one, then an accent, softer one, accent. Then part 2 allows you to put the different notes in a gesture. So beats 1 and 2 are going to be one physical gesture with the wrist. So we're going to go down on beat 1, up on 2, down, up, down. You can try this in different positions. Very challenging, I feel, when you do it on the black keys, because you have a different amount of distance between the blacks and whites. This is set number 1, exercise 9, for triads. When we study the piano, we want to have lots of basic scales and shapes in our hands. And so this one is to really get familiar with a major triad shape with using fingers 1, 3, and 5. So all we're doing is in a very relaxed fashion. Again, we're going to just stand up, find our triad, and we're just going to go back and forth between the C major triad in different octaves. Just like we did in number 2, rolling off, finding it. So this serves two purposes. Purpose 1 is the shape of the triad. What does that feel like? Purpose 2 is how far is the same chord 1 octave away. Try it in different positions. You'll notice when you jump, you have to maybe jump a little higher if you're on the black keys. So I always try this exercise in many keys every time I practice it. Part 2 of this exercise is a little triplet, and that allows you to pass through the triplet notes quickly. I like to think it's a 45-degree angle at which my wrist is going. See how that's rolling? 45 degrees. If I have an arrow right here, it would be 45 degrees. You can go faster. I like to give a big drop on the first one, a little one on beat 2. So drop, light, drop. Faster. Even faster. Try it on different keys. You notice when I'm doing this, my fingers are firmly not buckled at this joint, and I'm not leaving the keys. I'm not lifting up like this. I'm just passing through. My thumb might barely leave the keys, but the rest of the fingers stay on the keys. This is set number 1, exercise 9 for triads, top view. We are getting used to the triad shape. How does that feel in your hand? Root position triad, fingers 1, 3, 5. And we're also getting used to the distance of an octave in the first half of this exercise. So like we did in exercise 2, the release is going to be the move to the next position. See, I'm not doing it like a robot. I'm not lifting, then moving, and then going like that. I'm doing it like a little rainbow. I lift, so the lift kind of arcs over to the new position. Then the second half of this, which is easier to see from the top view, your wrist is kind of moving at a 45-degree angle like this. We're not going to just press our fingers down, but we're going to kind of we'll keep the hands in the half circle shape, but the wrist is going to be moving circular motion 45 degrees. Down, up, up, down, up, up, down. If you do it faster. It's really good for Alberti bass. You might have patterns that, those kinds of things. Down, down, down. This is set number 1, exercise 10 for the 5 fingers, articulation and finger control. Very fun exercise to do. Get your hand all set, stand up, and you'll be on the tips for this one. You're not going to really be leaving the keys really tall like that. I like to keep hands on the keys so you're feeling them before you go, and then you're kind of rolling from side to side on this one. So it's like it going to the right and going back to the left with a little bit of nudge down whenever you have an accent. So it's like we're doing a half moon. So just a slight little nudge downward when you have the accent. If you notice, all my fingers are staying on the keys except for the thumb. So I'm not lifting them up really high, but the thumb needs to lift to allow the hand to reach over where the pinky is. So do that one more time. Keep all the first knuckles firm, no buckling. We don't want to see any flat fingers like this or finger pats. I'm going to do it a little bit faster. This is set number 1 exercise 10 for the 5 fingers, articulation and finger control. And this is the top view, just so you can see the rotation. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get your hand all set up, stand up more on the tip portion, so this portion of the hand versus this portion, tips. And as you go through, you have the semicircle, and you're going to be kind of rolling back and forth and giving just a little nudge whenever you see the accent. You notice that all the fingers stay close to or on the keys except the thumb releases just a little bit. I'm going to do it a little bit faster. This is set number 1, exercise 11. This is for the skips. So this is just the interval of a tenth. Your hand is going to kind of rock back and forth and just grabbing the pinky just slightly. So you feel that stretch of a tenth. I can reach a tenth, so this one's pretty easy for me, but you're just trying to feel it. How far is a tenth? And if you really want to challenge, you try this with your eyes closed. This is set number 1, exercise 12 for chords. This is a voicing exercise, which teaches your hand the angle at which it needs to play the keys to have some notes sound louder than others. So if I play the C chord with both hands, like this, all those notes sound kind of equal. But if I turn my hand slightly, shift it a little bit to the right, then this C is going to get a little bit more of my arm weight and get a little bit louder. And that's where this exercise comes in. So we'll play the C chord, we'll have a down on the bottom half of the exercise whenever there's an accent. So it's going to look like this. Down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up. It might be a difficult exercise to do if you do not have an octave span, in which case I'd suggest just do it in a triad position and just back and forth. Just play instead of a chord on the bottom. Fingers 1, 2, and 3. Part 2 of this exercise, same thing, except instead of having your chords be broken, they're going to be blocked. So we get our hand set with pinky, hand turn slightly to the right, and we'll. It's a little bit difficult, I admit. You're trying to get those chords to sound at the same time and not be like what I call the harp, where they don't sound quite the same. One at a time, roll up, roll up. This is set number 1, exercise 12 for chords. In this exercise, this will be the top view, and I just wanted you to see how the weight of the hand is distributed. Rather than doing it like this, where everything is spread out and kind of equal, you're going to shift your hand a little bit to the right, let your fingers fan out a little bit, then some of the arm weight is going to the top of the chord to give you that voicing. So here's what this looks like from the top view. Down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up. And then each of those pull up. This is set number 1, exercise 13 for tremolos. You're going to get used to the motion of a tremolo, which is rocking the hand back and forth. So you don't really have to move your hand at all. In this one, we're just going to be using the top of the hand, 2 on F sharp, 3 on G. So your hand's going to be kind of very condensed. And we're just going to rock back and forth, hand staying on the keys, except the thumb, which may lift up a little bit higher as you get towards the top of your hand. So it's going to look like this, back and forth, 2, 1, 2. It's like you're opening the doorknob. That's the motion with your wrist. Hands super close to the keys. A little faster. Very This is set number 1, exercise 13 for tremolos or rotation. This is the top view. You're going to get your hand all standing up, set on the tips for this one, and just notice from the top view how my hand is really staying close to the keys and my wrist is rocking back and forth to do the tremolos. I'm not playing up and down like this. I'm rocking back and forth with my fingers on the keys. This is a complete run-through of essential daily exercises set number 1. Here we'll start with the right hand on the first exercise, doing all repeats. So 8 times on each finger, not too fast. Watch your hands so you can try to maintain the bridge shape. 4 doesn't want to lift up that high. Watching for the buckling, relaxing of the other fingers. The thumb's playing on its side. Left hand, stand up, find the gripping point, starting with the pinky 8 times. I'm right-handed, so this one is much more difficult for me. 4 barely wants to come up. So you're watching for the shape of the finger that's playing. Trying to make sure the other fingers also stay in position. All right, here's number 2. You might not see all of the left hand. It gets chopped off a little bit at the bottom. Here we'll start with finger 3, middle C. We're getting the distance of an octave, and we are also finding the portamento or non-legato touch all as one thing. It's not play, release. It's one thing. Notice my wrist is kind of floating up in the air. Left hand. Here's the next one for stretching. Once I've got my hands set, then I'm going to shift them slightly to the right so I get the U shape here and roll up. And only go as high as your hand will allow. Left hand is A and F for this one. Same concept. Start straight, turn a little bit to the left. Number 4, thumb passing in scales. We're going to get set, stand up, find the gripping point on that 3rd finger. Other fingers are hanging out and relaxing on the keys while the thumb folds under. I'm going to do the repeat there. And we don't want to have a lot of wrist going back and forth. I'm concentrating on just gliding back and forth very gently. Hand, stand up, find the position. Now playing every Here's the octave exercise, keeping the wrist very loose. Just touching. Repeating with the left hand, do a little crescendo as you go to the top. Here's the trill exercise. This is on the tips, not the fatty part, but more the top of your fingerprint. We'll do a bunch of repeats in this. We get set, so we've got big, big down, little down. Trying to get 4 notes in one wrist motion. Part 2, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up. Let's do 2 more. And the final one, we'll do 2 repeats on this one. Down, up, down, a little faster. Actually, we'll do 2 more. Left hand, same thing. Fingers 3 and 2. Down, up, little down, up. And the triplets. Down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up. Keeping your fingers really close to the keys. Do 4 of these. Down, up, down, down, up, down. Here's exercise 7. The very loose wrist and just touching the tips of your fingers for the staccati. We'll do this twice through. One more time, see if you can crescendo. Left hand. Softer. Here's the double thirds. We'll do all the repeats in this one. We get set, kind of like number 1, very firmly. Now we're holding 2 and 4 down. Your hands might shake like mine are shaking right now. Getting 1 and 3 to move as a unit. Here's part 2. Down, up. I'm watching my hand position. Holding 2 and 4 down, pressing down 1 and 3. Really have to concentrate on relaxing that pinky. Now 4 and 2, down, up, down, up. So you're rolling through for the up. Here's number 9 for triads. We're getting used to. 45-degree angle. Left hand, same thing, a little bit gets cut out. Here's number 10. For the 5 fingers, articulation and finger control, rolling back and forth. Sometimes the thumb comes off a little bit. Other fingers are very focused and you're playing on the tips. Clean releases, no overlap. This is not a legato exercise, so. I always feel the energy flowing as I turn my wrist back and forth. Same thing with the left hand, find the tips. Here's the exercise for skips. In this case, they're a 10th. We're just going to touch back and forth. Just see if you can find the arc for that 10th. Here's number 12 for chords. Notice I'm getting set, kind of fanning out to the right. This is for voicing. One more time. And then do your best to let those chords sound at the same time. Left hand's a little bit easier because we're using finger 4. Fanning to the left for this case. Whoops, my pinky did not want to obey there. And here we are at the final exercise for the tremolos. Hands very compact, very much on the tips. We're not going to leave the keys hardly at all except for the thumb. And one more time. Left hand. Thank you for watching this video and joining me on these exercises. I usually stay on a set for 1 to 2 weeks, and during that 2-week time I'll try the exercises in different positions. So I'll move up maybe chromatically. I maybe sometimes try major and minor versions. So mix it up a little bit, have fun, and again, thanks for watching.